Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
So I shared a post and Facebook memories, or whatever. Yeah, Facebook memories. Reminded me of the post. I shared this December 1st, 2016. Today marks 6 months without drinking a drop of juice or soda, wine or beer. I never drink beer or wine anyways. 6 months without eating bread, cake, or anything sweet. The change to my body has been fantastic. I feel great. I've lost weight. My new healthy way of thinking has been on an extremely positive experience. I look forward to keeping this up and going for more. No junk food, processed food, or caffeine. Just eating healthy every day because I care. And above all, 2 hours of exercise every day. I have no freaking clue whose status this is, but it said copy and paste, so I did. Why I think that's funny is because today, December 1st, 2022, 6 years later, I stepped off. I just wrapped a 30-day, essentially a 30-day cleanse, where I essentially cut out all carbs, which meant sugars and sweeteners and all that shit. But over the course of time, I'd quit drinking. Into 2017, I'd quit drinking and doing nefarious things. Ooh. And over the course of time, even with my injuries and surgeries and all, and COVID, I still managed to go to the gym as much as possible. Even when they tried to tell you that the gym was unhealthy. Don't go to the gym, you'll die. Shut up. It's weird how much, I want to say, waking up taps you into a new sense of self-worth, sense of self-reality. That cleanse that I stepped off, first off, the post in 2016 was a joke. Obviously, it was like, who the fuck would do all that shit? But as the time had passed, and inch by inch, piece by piece, my mindset shifted away from that crazy-go-lucky party guy stuck in the third dimension, even though I was moderately aware my whole life and heavily aware after 9/11, and even more so after 2012, and then bleeding into 2017, where just everything hit the fan. Dark night of the soul for sure, 2017. But there's stages to this, and those stages are your whole life. And what people don't realize, too, is that the only way you can possibly wake up is if first you were asleep. So you had to come here. You had to go through your junior years 0 through 7 in the theta waves, playing in the imagination and being programmed and downloading the program. Very program in which we're playing right now. And it's like, how do you explain to somebody something that you don't fully understand yourself? Well, it's really hard to do it. But you end up getting ramblings like me, sitting here, attempting to explain it a little bit. Waking up it's such a peculiar term right now, and it's been hijacked, the woke and all this sort of stuff. But when you're having this experience and when you're going through this stuff, you just naturally make these changes. And one change leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And eventually, all of these changes inside the annals of your brain have caught up with each other, and they all still make sense. And it's hard to explain them or even verbally say them, because inside your brain, if this, then that. These are the triggers that go off in your brain. I know this because of this, this, and this. But the minute you start saying that, you sound like a raving lunatic. Because they're like, well, anybody could be like, well, what about this? What about that? Like, how do you explain the fact that over the past 10 years of your life, you've been paying attention to things that you feel that nobody else has been? Granted, that number of people that quote unquote haven't been paying attention is depleting. The more we talk about this and the more we go into this, the more we see there are people everywhere that have been going through this. And they feel like they were alone. I felt like I was alone for a long time. I felt like when I started this podcast, there were things that I couldn't talk about. And then I was proven that there were things that I couldn't talk about when it came down to questioning the science. Oh, no, don't question the science, whatever you do. Right? And then they say things like, well, where does the science lead? Oh, one more second here.
In the news. Now.
I pressed the wrong button again. So let's go with this one.
Disclaimer. If you're going to soundbite any of this podcast, you must soundbite it in its entirety for consistency and context.
Yeah, it might get weird, so I had to put that in there. When we start thinking about certain things, when we start going on these tangents and when we start having these ideologies, there's a point in time where we go extremely far out, as far, I don't know, liberal, left, conservative, right as you can go, as far out into reality as you can go. You have to be able to expand your mind, and it's at these fringes that you feel crazy, but it's also at these fringes that the weirdest people live. And these people are onto something. I don't quite know what it is, but you sample them when you go on this journey, and it's fucking scary to get out there when you start having these realizations or these thoughts, and then you start expanding upon it, and you start traveling down these wormholes that bring you out there. Now, the thing is, over a course of your life, you're going to have a lot of these moments. They become fewer and far between because you understand the limits, and you understand your personal rational spot in this. Because you got to think that, you know, your life, when you do truly find your quote unquote alignment, you know what's right for you, and everybody has their station. Everybody has the experiences that they need to experience while they're here. So for me, a little bit of that journey, was obviously coming through brutally hell. I mean, a lot of it had to do with drinking and drugs and fast times, and I was a total degenerate. But on the surface, I was a high-powered sales individual, somebody who dealt with high-ticket items, somebody who constantly did sales coaching and training. On the surface, I had it together. Underneath, a totally different story. I had succumbed to my demons, the demons of the third dimension. I had grown up on MTV Cribs, and I always wanted more money, without even realizing that I was actually chasing happiness, not money. And the pursuit of money was absolutely brutal. It was the thing that was killing me the most, because the more I had, the more dumb shit I did. And it didn't matter how much I had, I was never happy. And, a collapse was imminent. And a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't want to talk about this because people only ever want to talk about their success. Or society only wants to ram success down the throats of people who aren't successful. And the problem with that is the definition of success. North American definition of success is that we all have millions and millions of dollars, which is the biggest flaw of all. Money in and of itself is something that I've come to realize is the biggest distraction going. And yes, we need money to play the game, for sure. But when you change your vibrational relationship with money, so many other things change. So if I were to go on a tangent and talk about the universe and how it's created, it would involve money because money is part of the universe in which we're in which we've created. So here's where it gets weird. Let's do some thinking. What do we know? Let's go conspiracy. Let's go tinfoil hat. What do we know right now? You can think about the stuff that you know. And you know that the news is fake. You know about Epstein. You know about the client list that's coming. We know about the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs, and we know about BlackRock. We know about celebrities. We know about Tom Hanks and his proclivities. We know about, am I allowed to say Tom Hanks? That was the thing from back in the day. Got us banned. We know about all of this stuff. We know that we can watch the Marvel movies and we can see sort of stories that they decide to tell. We can watch virtually any movie that's a fantasy movie. And the idea is, for the most part, I believe, this is our truth and our reality stolen from us and sold back to us as entertainment, almost like a mocking form. We know that they hide truths in movies. We know all this stuff. And, so we know that the idea too that we've understood is when you start waking up, you start piecing things together. We know that they always say follow the money. So let's get into creation. The idea that we live on a space ball in infinite nothingness floating through space is very easily debunked if you really want to look into it. But you have to break free of your own cognitive dissonance, which most of you listening to this show already have. And you're on your own journey right now. And right now at this stage in the game, I'm a part of it. And welcome to the show. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Welcome to your show, I should say, because I'm now just simply a piece of the show that is your life. And your life is fantastic and it's unique. And not a single person other than you is able to experience it. I'm just a common denominator between all the listeners, which is pretty cool. But I'm one factor in a billion. So we go back to it. What do we know? We know that we're allowed to see certain things. We're allowed to have certain ideas. We're allowed to be dead asleep. We know that we're allowed to be dead asleep. And when we are dead asleep, there are a million things going on in the earth. It looks like everything is unique and everything is secular. But if you really dive into it, there's 20 people roughly that are your ultimate influence. And that is things like the President of the United States, Secretary of State, because they're influential in the news, media, a handful of celebrities, and a few other people and entities sprinkled in and around. But roughly, out of the entirety of the world, 20 people. But we think it's much bigger because we think our friends in Arkansas saw a news story that was this, that, and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of those powerful people, the BlackRock Group, is in charge of all the media. It's also been said that all the media is, well, okay, so we used to think that the Liberal Party had the media in their pocket. But it's looking more like the Liberal Party and Conservative Party, for contrast, and the media are legitimately all one entity. And if you start thinking about the media and you start breaking down the media, you realize that for the entirety of our lives, we've been sitting in a position where we turn to a certain resource to give us our information. And they limit the information they had, especially in the past 4 or 5 years. They're really showing you what censorship is all about. We used to think it was weird. We used to think it was impossible. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever. But that's so far from the truth. There's absolutely no way, and you've seen it. The internet's actually quite small. The internet's a microcosm. It's also designed as a distraction to keep us fighting each other. The longer we fight each other, the less we understand that we can focus on other things and other tasks and other approaches to life. Once you start clearing your head of the bullshit that we've been programmed with, you can start seeing things. Now, back to the story at hand. I'm going to be all over the place here. I already am all over the place. You guys know. Whee! When we look at everything as a whole, I mean, we've seen the pictures of Putin wearing the stars and the moon robes with all the other people. We know the stories of Hillary and all this stuff. We're allowed to see this stuff. We also understand that the Ukraine war, it's very, very publicized. Now, what's going on over there? It's not what it seems to be. And why is it that the media and the people are all up in arms about the Ukraine war, but nobody's talking about what's going on in Iran, except for the people that are in Iran? You realize even that even if mass atrocities are real or fake, they're specifically being delivered to us. Now, you go a little bit bigger than that, you go a little bit higher than that, and you say to yourself, who's delivering, what's delivering? And then you start asking yourself, well, it's the Trilateral Commission, it's the Bilderberg Group, it's BlackRock. And you start saying, follow the money, watch what these guys invest in, watch this, watch the transfer of wealth. These are all distractions again. Because once you break out of the third dimension, you start seeing things the way they are. You sort of get stuck in different games. Other intentional distractions that they've laid down for you to fall for. And you also don't have the ability to see things. I don't have the ability to see. I'm not saying you, but I do. I'm saying that we don't have the ability to see things once we come out of the third dimension. Because, first of all, we don't really understand what that means. And again, the statement, the third dimension, is also a third dimensional statement. The truth is, once we start elevating ourselves and our consciousness and our vibration, we start seeing things differently. we start understanding things differently. We start understanding that we can't say things like follow the money because the money is part of the illusion. Those that invented the illusion invented money to distract you. So that you would follow the money is also a distraction. If we don't focus on the money at all and we start looking at things through different eyes, like why would they be doing this? Because we think this world runs on money, which is what they want us to think. Now I'm going somewhere with this and I've got an explanation as to who they are. I'm doing air quotes with my hands. But this to me is one of those things where we have to deduce in our own brains what's going on. And how do we do this as well? We try to share information with people. We try to convince other people that this is the way things are. All the while, we're really just talking to ourselves. We're really just trying to convince ourselves. And when we can egoically get out of our own way, we can see that all of the arguments that we've had with people are really just us trying to convince us that this is possible. Because as fucked up as all of it is, it's still happening. We're still aware of it, and we don't quite know how to process it. So we do what we do in the third dimension, which is assert our dominance or show our stature or show how foolish somebody else is. But the higher up you go on this journey, the more you realize that you're not at war with anybody else. You don't need to talk down to anybody else. And every single person that still believes the third dimensional story believes it for a reason, believes it for you to help you sharpen your skills by talking to them, or believes it just like you believed it. Maybe they're 2-3 years behind you, but they're going to catch up. So we appreciate everyone's journey. We appreciate everyone. And when we do that, we appreciate ourselves a little bit more and we give ourselves a little bit more leeway and freedom. Therefore, we're kinder to ourselves. When you start being kinder to yourself, like truly kind to yourself, like remember too, the programming that we took down was that you're not good enough. No matter what you do, no matter what you accomplish, it's never enough, which keeps us humans in a perpetual state of lower vibration. It doesn't matter what your body type is. You're trained to believe that you're not good enough. You're trained to compare yourself to everybody else. And you're trained to say to yourself, I'm not good. So the person that you're comparing yourself to is also comparing themselves to somebody else. And every single person on the planet is going, I'm not good enough. Then of course there's the person that's going to come up to you and say, I think I'm perfectly fine and blah, 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 blah. Right. And that person's just being a toxic entity into a conversation. Because that person that feels the need to stand there and tell you that they're perfect is probably the biggest coward of them all. I know, I was him. So now that's the thing, right? And that person's at war with themselves and not anybody else. And that's just another experience for you to have in this journey. Now, back to what I was talking about with regards to who and what we are and who they are. So the idea that we would be able to follow the money and follow this and follow that and follow everything that sort of trails up. And we do that. It's exactly, you have to follow the money to understand that the money's irrelevant. And when you get to that point in the game, you start looking at higher purposes. Like, what is this? Is this frequency? Then you start thinking about movies like The Matrix, where they're like, yeah, we're harvesting your energy. There's truth in The Matrix. There's truth all over the place in The Matrix. The idea that we can't even accept the fact that, the main story that we are totally irrelevant beings living on a planet that has more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the beach. And we are utterly irrelevant. This is the story that we're supposed to believe is factual. This is the story that we're supposed to base everything else off. How are you supposed to feel if you believe that you're literally infinite nothingness? It's garbage. It's a shit way of life. It's a shit reality. But when you realize that you are the creator, you are the top dog in all of this, and you're here playing the game that you programmed to learn the lessons that you needed to learn and to observe the things that you needed to observe and to become the entity that you needed to become. You're playing a game. Alan Watts said the reason that we're depressed and anxious so much is because we take so seriously what the gods made for fun. And then we compare that to things like, to any religious person in here, your story about God. That's a great story. But there's a million religions on this planet. And they're all at war with each other. Why would all of these gods want to say that, you can't come into heaven? I understand that there's some truth to these stories. And if you look at all of the stories, there are some congruent truths, which you can parlay and make the most of yourself and make into your own. I think the idea of war is low vibrational. I think that a lot of the stuff that we do is vibrational tendencies. I think that manifestation is one of the most beautiful things in the entire world. When you start seeing it and when you start acting upon it, it's phenomenal. And there are so many times when you're stuck, and everything's shit, you're just like, no, man, I didn't do any of this sort of stuff. I can't manifest $1 million. It's like, it's not in my hand. Man, you've manifested your entire life up to this point. Your life is a direct result of the effort that you've put in based on the knowledge that you've desired to acquire. So change your effort, change your knowledge, your whole game changes. And it's entirely up to you to just pick up a book or to understand this. Now, granted, all of those books and all of that stuff are locked firmly in this reality, in this realm. And this is, make no mistake about it, this is a prison planet. That's what it appears, right? But the beautiful thing about the prison planet is that you can escape it. And you're supposed to escape it. It's like we're in a what do they call it? Lock rooms or secret rooms. I don't know. Why is it drawing? I'm drawing a blank on. Escape room. Good Lord. What do you call that room you escape from? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, Jesus. Ethel, you would have loved it. So we're in an escape room. And you need to find the clue, to find the key, to find the vent, to stick the key in, to get through the vent, to get over here, to get over there, to understand all of this stuff, and to finally escape. So on this prison planet, these are all the rules. And in this escape room, this giant escape room that we're playing, these are all the rules that we have to abide by. And when you start asking questions and when you start looking, more truths come, more things come. And your personal brain starts connecting more and more dots. So there's a million more of these entities and these items and these things going on in our world and in our reality. And egoically, we're like, I can't believe that. I refuse to believe that. I'm staying right here. And there are people too that have made millions of dollars and they're driving around in their Bentleys and life is good and they don't think anything of it. And that's cool. And I'm not talking to them. I am talking to you, the person who is waking up, the person who is seeing certain things. That's another thing that we're not allowed to do too. We're not allowed to think for ourselves. And what I mean by that is we're not allowed to put ourselves first in the thoughts of ourselves. Is it so wrong for me to be like, yeah, this is resonating with me. It doesn't matter if it resonates with anybody else. No, there's something in us that's ingrained to say, well, if you said this, and they come out as arrogant and ignorant. Now you can definitely go back and forth with conversation and open doors and expand your mind. But remember, at the end of the day, I come from being a very sarcastic piece of shit. That sarcasm was hilarious to a degree, but it was all based in insecurity and fear. And my sarcasm was me just stepping up and stepping loudly and being proud of something that I never was. So that's another little bit of background on where I'm coming from with this. Operating with integrity changes all that. Sarcasm is still there, but it's not hurtful. Right? The idea was hurtful sarcasm because, again, shock sarcasm is funny. Even when you see it on TV, it's something that you're not supposed to laugh at. You're like, I'm going to hell for laughing at this. Man, that shit's funny. That we're not allowed to laugh at it kind of even makes it funnier, and that's the thing. So while you're having this experience, I'll do a quick rundown as well. So let's go back to it. We know that, so-and-so is this and so-and-so is that. We know that the celebrities we know about. You go a little bit higher than the celebrities. We know about politicians, a little bit higher than politicians. We know about world religions, world leaders. We go a little bit higher than that. We know about financial institutions, bank leaders. We know, these are all people that are controlling and manipulating the situation, but they're all controlling and manipulating your observation of the situation. Therefore, your story gets amalgamated with whatever it is that they're doing because they've been force-fed down your throat your whole life. You go a little bit higher than them. You get the Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, BlackRock, these financial guys that we don't even know what they look like, but we're distracted by the Jay-Z's and the Beyoncé's and the celebrities. You go a little bit higher than them, then basically you've got a lot of stuff going. How could this possibly be all interconnected, all intertwined? This is where you step into AI because everything is intrinsically tied into everything else, that this is such a smooth running machine that there's no possible way that it's not AI. So when it is understood that we're probably in a simulation and that we're probably having this experience and that we're probably okay to understand and comprehend it and that we're probably okay to ask questions, the more questions we ask give us different answers. And the more the system falls apart, you just see it for what it is. So the more the system is willing to show you exactly how flawed and fake it truly is, because some of this stuff just then becomes completely illogical. And now if we can fully accept the fact that we're probably inside a simulation, the question is who programmed that simulation? And the answer is you. Because you're the one inside the simulation. You're the one right now experiencing this simulation. And you're the one that's growing as an entity and as a character inside the simulation. You're the one that says, this is shit and I hate it all. Or you're the one that says, this is shit and I'm going to change it all. And you can only hate it all for so long until you start changing it all. So changing it all, if you're listening to this show, is an inevitability. What are you going to do with your life? You're going to take all of the information that you have and you're going to step the fuck up. That's what you're going to do, because that's the only thing you can possibly do. It's just a matter of when. When do you decide that you're going to do it? You can pause, you can delay, you can say, I'm going to do it today, I'm going to do it tomorrow. You cannot even be aware that you're going to do it, and most people aren't. But that you're listening to this show, if you've listened to more than 10 episodes, you're on a path. You're on a path that can't be stopped. It is, once the awakening starts, it's a steam train. You're going to plow through a lot of shit, and you're going to face a lot of your own demons, and you're going to go through a lot of stuff. And there are people that aren't built for this. There are people in your life, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, that aren't built for this. But you are. And here we are. So the more you tie all of this in together, the more you understand that you're in a prison planet, but that prison is inside your mind. That prison is based on exactly how you feel and think and see things, and how you choose to react to things. So many people, again, want to look at the negative and want to see the negative and just live in the negative. And we're surrounded by negative. But all of these negatives are an opportunity for us to step up, to think differently, to change the way we perceive what's going on. Since we legitimately have no control over what's going on in and around us, all we do have control over is how we choose to perceive it. The only way that we can alter our perception is with new effort and new knowledge, new information. This is what changes everything. So, I mean, the best thing that I could say to you is keep up with the audiobooks, keep up with the podcasts, go to the gym, push your limits, push your boundaries, test yourself, see what you can do, and understand that there's a 99.9% chance that this is your program. This is your game. You are that powerful. What are you going to do with that? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a fun one for me. And I will leave it on this. In the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.